Hello, welcome to GeekyHiJynx, home of the Mischief Makers, and today we're looking at Fear Street, Part 2, 1978. Not a mouthful at all. So let's just get stuck straight into it. Part 1, if you've seen my review, if you haven't, links above, wasn't too keen on. I think after the week went by and I thought about it more, it was okay, but I was more on the side of the fence that didn't like it as opposed to the other friends that did. And it was very diverse with the first one because I spoke to many people, my dudes at Cinema Squad, family, friends. Some loved it, some hated it. Some like me on the middle, in the middle should I say, but I was kind of teetering towards, it was alright. So with 1978, I was kind of thinking, this looks more like me, more my cup of tea, like the 80s slasher films. And why wasn't this called 1981? Because for me, this had more in common with the 80s slasher films than anything came out in the 70s, but that's a little nitpick, but it should have been called 1981. That would have made more sense. But with everything said, is this the episode of the film Trilogy Event from Netflix that will bring me back into, that make me think, this could actually be a decent trilogy, even though I didn't enjoy the first one that much. It was okay, like I mentioned. Is this the one that's going to make me think, this is one I actually would buy on DVD or Blu-ray or 4K when it comes out? So before we start, what's this film about? So part 2 takes place straight after part 1, where Dina and Josh have tracked down Miss Berman, who is the sole survivor of this summer camp massacre back in 1978, and they ask for help because Dina's girlfriend Sam, she's a bit twitchy, she's a bit crazy. Is she possessed by the witch? They don't know. And Miss Berman's like, look, get away, leave me alone. But no, we need your help. You can help us find out how to beat this witch and save Sam. And she's like, look, back in 1978, my sister was killed. And then from there, you're transported back to 1978, where she kind of retells her story as a teenager at this summer camp and what happened to maybe help Dina and Josh out. So I'm going to say Fear Street so far, part 1 and part 2, are reminding me a little bit of the Spider-Man Raimi trilogy. And if you think what the hell I'm talking about, well, it's like the Raimi trilogy. Stick with me here, but in reverse. So yeah, it's Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3. 3 being the weakest, 2 being the strongest, 1 being the best one to start it off. But Fear Street for me is in reverse. So Fear Street Part 1 is Spider-Man 3. Fear Street Part 2 is Spider-Man 2. And Part 3 is looking like it'll be okay. So Spider-Man 1. Hope that makes sense. My mind is crazy. Thank you for listening to that load of rubbish. But anyway, Fear Street Part 2 for me was much better than Part 1 in every single way. And I'm going to tell you why. Now, as soon as this film started, I was in way faster than part 1. Now, I loved part 1's opening. That whole screen vibe with the phone and the killer and the mall. That was great, but I wanted more of that. And I didn't get it. And apart from the bread slicer scene, there was nothing else that really I can remember about this. The characters weren't too engaging. Everything, the suspense, the tension, there was none. The killers are cool. I look forward to seeing more of those killers. And that's what I kind of got here. But yeah, part 1 wasn't too keen on. But as soon as part 2 started, once I got to the 1970s in the summer camp, I was just engaged straight away. It's brutal, the killers are cool, I like the characters. I'm going to get into this all in a moment, but it just felt like a proper horror movie that you can watch. And for me, it's one of my favourite horror movies of the year. And I'm not just saying that, it just gave me what I wanted. It gave me what part 1 I wanted from part 1, but I got throughout the whole of part 2. Storyline wise, plot wise, twists, fear, tension, suspense, shocks, everything. So yeah, if you love your horrors, you should really like this. And I mentioned the characters, but the characters in this, in my opinion, were much better than part 1. More likeable, better chemistry, better acting, just overall better in my opinion. Cindy, Ziggy played by Sadie Sink, who was in Stranger Things. Their relationship as sisters was great, I believed it. And the fact I went into this not knowing which one would die, added more suspense and like tension for me, because I liked him. I did 2 different storylines throughout this entire show that sort of interlinked like throughout, but I like the really good characters, and that's for me a good horror where sometimes you want to see everyone die, sometimes you want to see all of them survive, or a happy mix. These 2 characters, I didn't want to die at all, so the fact that I knew one of them was added a bit more suspense for me. And the other characters are great too, all tropes on like those summer like camp films. Even the acting sometimes could be a bit like hokey, but I think that was on purpose to be a bit more like those films, a bit more over the top, a bit more cheesy, and it all worked in my opinion. But all the characters from Tommy, who I won't say what happens to him, but he was really good in this too. Like his performance before and after, let's just say that. And all the other characters, from the bully that was bullying Ziggy to the love interest, all of them, all well rounded. It just reminded me, like I said, a good old fashioned 80s slasher film. But the thing I loved the most about this film was the killer and how brutal it was. Now, this had a nice mix of Friday the 13th and The Burning, because in The Burning you had the counsellors as well as the campers, and Friday the 13th you had more of the counsellors before the campers came to stay. Now, the killer in this, the Axeman, I wish I had him in the sack more, like the sack over his head, because you find out how he gets it, but I wish there was more of it. When he gets it, it looks amazing. Cosplay, that'd be wicked at Halloween. But he doesn't mess around. If he wants you dead, there's no like begging for him. He kills kids. He kills counsellors. He kills teenagers. He doesn't care. If he finds you, you're dead. And when the first kid gets killed, now you don't see kids die on screen, but it's implied in a way that's kind of worse, because when you see the Axeman kill adults and you see what happens to them, you don't think, oh my god, those kids get messed up if that's what he's done to them. He's just brutal. The way he moves, he's like literally like a shark. He'll just zone in on someone and kill him. Oh, there's another person. Kill him. Non-stop, the guy. And I wish this was anything but Fear Street, because I would love a series just based on this time frame in the 70s, early 80s, with this Axeman killer. He was great. And the story and the plot in part 2 is just better in my opinion. I was engaged. Part 1, I was on my own phone the entire time. I was getting distracted. I was looking around. I was pausing the film constantly because it just wasn't gripping me. Like I said, not terrible, but it wasn't just engaging enough. Part 2 had me from the moment it started. So you got to that summer camp, introduced to the characters, you get the feel of it, you just get all those vibes of those old slasher films. It's just purely enjoyable. The storyline and plot is just more engaging. Each character has their own like arcs and twists that interweave throughout the entire film, but each character in this movie has a moment where they get ample time to shine. And at the very end as well, with the sisters, like, you know, one of them's going to die, because it's established in the first film. It's established early on in the very start of this, before it goes into the 70s. But you don't want them to die, and when one of them does, you're kind of sad, because they have such a good, like I said, the chemistry between them is so good that you're kind of disappointed when that moment does come along. That's the sign of a good horror film, where you get your kills, you're like, oh my god, that was amazing. But then you get characters that you get attached to, and you don't want to see them die. And the film balances that perfectly. And for me, it's just why it's better than part 1. And the music in this film was amazing. Just like part 1, I was loving life. I love my music. I love all music. I love 70s music. When I heard David Bowie playing, I was in a good place. When I heard Kurt Cobain singing a David Bowie song, I was in a beautiful place. So the music, like in the first one, was great. And the editing was much better in this film as well. In the first one, they were doing this stupid thing where one scene would end with a sentence, and then a new scene would begin with that same sentence, and it was really annoying. So it was like me saying, I can't believe it's not butter. And that is how the scenes would be in the first one. Really annoying. So in this one, it was nice to see they didn't think, that was really cool in the first one, let's do it for the whole thing. They dropped it, and as a result, I was happy. So overall guys, I really enjoyed this film. I had such a good time. I was engaged throughout. Did look at my phone once. The characters are way more better acted in my opinion. More charismatic, more likable. There's better chemistry between them all. The kills are way more brutal, like much more better than the first one. The killer was way more intimidating. Had much more of a presence. You were actually fearful of him when he came on the screen, because you thought whoever comes across him, you're just done. The story and the plot just worked better in the first one. It kind of was explained better. And there was much more natural thread throughout the entire film. So when it did come to the end, yeah, there was some sad parts, but you're just way more satisfied. And the things I didn't like were when anything from the 90s crept in. So I liked the first 3 minutes of the film, and the last like 5 minutes of the film, because yeah, that's what it is. Like the second one, you just had more fun with, and the first one just, yeah, I can't put my finger on it yet. I'm gonna have to watch them all back to back again after I've seen the third one, just to get a general idea of how I feel. But yeah, the second one is just much better. So with everything said, I'm going to give Fear Street Part 2, 1978, a silver win, because it's a film I'd recommend to you all as a casual or hardcore horror horror fan, and it's one I'll definitely watch again. And just like last time, as soon as this film finishes, press start because the trailer for part 3 plays, and it gives a crap ton away. I watched it because I'm a clown, and I've seen quite a lot of the film, but luckily for me, memory like a fish. So hopefully I'll forget a good chunk of it, so when I go into the third installment, I'll be surprised, but it does show quite a lot. So as soon as part 2 finishes, press stop, and you're good. So guys, that was my review of Fear Street Part 2, 1978. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Was it a snooze fest or the greatest film we've ever seen? Come back to the comments to let me know, because I genuinely am interested. And if you like this video, drop me those likes because it always does help. But until next time, stay out of trouble.